All right. Hey, welcome to the iPhoneography podcast, everyone. My name is Greg McMillan, and we are live on YouTube. So bear with us. It's still one of those weird things to try to get everything um, working right, and but I'm giving it my best. I wish I had like two sets of arms. That would be really good. Anyway, welcome to the show wherever you're from. I see we got Dale from all the way from Australia. We have Michael Inman in the chat as well. Welcome to the show, and I'm going to bring in Mr. Dave Bodner. Hello, Dave. How you doing?
Doing good, Greg. How you doing tonight?
Oh, not bad. Um, we have a bunch of things to cover tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But first and foremost, okay, so I've kind of changed the branding a little bit to kind of go with. I always try to go with my current phone, and right now it's the um, Desert Titanium
Mm.
iPhone 16 Pro Max. So the colors that I'm using, uh, for the YouTube logo and the podcast logo are all going to eventually kind of change over to match that phone. And I just think it's kind of a quirky thing to do, but I kind of like it. When I had I still have the 15 Pro Max, but when that was my daily carrier, I had everything kind of matching that. And what I do is I go to the Apple website, I get a picture of the phone, and I use a color picker to try to get the exact colors. And maybe it's going a little too far, but I think it's kind
And
of cool.
and if you like
But
it,
the
you like
other,
it.
yeah, but the other big announcement we have is, and you saw a little bit of this last time, is that we have a new co-host, and we are welcoming to the show Mr. Dwight Broeman. Hey, Dwight.
Hey guys, appreciate being here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Yep. Yeah, not
loud
bad
and
at
clear.
all.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to be here and participate with you.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you because when I put in the announcements for all this, we're uh having you on board brings a nice fresh look to the show, and you bring with you some interesting things like desktop editing and things like that. Stuff that Dave and I don't really do a lot
Mm-hmm.
of, and I think that's a nice, refreshing change, and it's another avenue to go down that people can learn with us. So we're really happy to have you on board.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited to dig in with you guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so we've had the iPhone 16 Pro Max for a few days now. I think you got yours on Friday as well, did you not?
I did.
Yeah. And we also have the same one. Is that correct? You got the Desert Titanium?
I got the black one.
Oh, you got the black one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you
Now,
guys
how
hearing
does
an
that
echo on
look?
my side by any chance?
No.
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 Okay. Good.
Oh,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
sound good.
I forget what they call that one, but yeah, the
I
black
think
one.
it's
That.
just black titanium.
Yeah. Yeah. The desert one is beautiful though. My son got that one, so it's nice.
Yeah, yeah. So they said, um, I'm pretty sure they said in the announcement that the black titanium is a little darker than the previous one. Because I think they had like a black titanium one before. But um, anyway, but it looks nice and, professional, I guess you could say.
Yeah. It looks nice.
Yeah, cool. And what storage capacity?
I went with the gig.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I shoot a lot in the Pro Raw, and I have quite a big library that or terabyte, I mean, or is it gigabyte?
It's a
Gigabyte.
terabyte. Yeah, I knew
It's
what you
terabyte.
meant. Yeah,
Yeah,
terabyte.
yeah.
And I was really excited about the new, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The 4K video, and I want to start learning some of that and shooting in log and a few other things. So I bit the
Yeah.
bullet, and the price difference on a monthly basis was manageable, so I went for it. We'll see if I regret it.
Yeah, yeah, really. Well, that's cool. Um, okay, so we're going to talk about our experiences with these, and I said in the uh, like in the show notes for the YouTube video, and it's going to be the same thing when I post the podcast. That we're going to see if we can talk Dave into, or we'll see if our initial thoughts are enough to make Dave want to upgrade, because he'll be due for an upgrade within a few months here.
Yeah.
And but I mean, Dave, you're holding out for the 17, I think. So
Well, it's not a matter of holding out for the 17. It's a matter of, since Ruth has the 15 Pro Max, and October is my last payment on my current phone, so we are 6 weeks away. Would it make sense? Is there enough of a difference? A and B. I just double checked Apple's website. They normally cut the trade-in value by $100. So like I would get, if I trade this one in now from Apple, not the carrier one, not the carrier thing, but the Apple will give me $400. If I had the 14, they give me $500.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm figuring next year they're only going to give me $300. So the question is, admittedly, that $100 will be spread over 3 years, so it's $3. Because I finance it through the carrier for 3 years.
Yeah.
Dale,
And
but
Dale says if you sell it privately instead of a trade-in, you get probably twice as much. And
you
he's
might,
probably
yeah.
right.
Yeah. The
But
only
it's
advantage is, and I know it locks me into the carrier till I pay it off. Like right now, if I trade this phone in and use the 3-year AT&T deal they have, the phone would only cost me $5.53 a month.
yeah.
So we're talking nothing in reality.
Yeah.
And Dave, where
So-
would you be coming from? Is that the 12 you have?
13 Pro Max.
13. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if Ruth has the 15, and if she doesn't mind you playing around with it, then
Yeah.
it's probably not that much of a jump. Now, if you did not have, like, if she didn't have the 15 Pro Max,
Yeah.
like say she had like the 12 or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're ready for an upgrade, it would definitely be
Oh,
a
yeah.
good move from
Yeah.
the 13 Pro.
Yeah. Well, and I'm
Because
also trying to see.
but because the 14 is when the 48 megapixel started, and
Right.
that's the big thing right there,
Yeah.
in my opinion. The 14
And
or the 48 megapixel sensor, that's the big change, the biggest change, I think.
And also,
There's obviously, I think image quality gets a little better every year, even from the 15 to the 16, but I haven't
which
done,
we will talk about. Which we will talk about.
yeah, like I haven't done big time exclusive testing yet, but I think it's a little better.
But the other thing to
But
think about is with the size change this year,
mm,
where a lot of people went for the Max because A, it did have the 5X, where the Pro non-Max didn't have it. Well, now it's the same camera, it's the same phone except for size and battery life.
yeah,
And now that we're up to 6.3 inches, freedom units, then we don't have. The question is that big enough now for a lot of people? Is it, well,
yeah.
I like the 6.7, but 6.3, it's smaller, but are we too small? Is it a matter of, is it a better size? And I have to go to the store to actually get my hands on it to see and think, well, is this too big? Is this too small? What's going on here?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the 5x zoom. I actually miss the 3x zoom. I don't find the image quality to be as good, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Greg?
So the image quality in the 5x,
Yeah, on the 5x zoom.
I think it's
I think low light, it's horrible.
yeah, it's not as good in low light.
Yeah.
Um,
So the
the other
question
day I took
is,
some. Was that
sorry,
Dave?
Greg. What I would say, is it now the tele is always worse because physics,
Mm-hmm.
low light, because and also because Apple doesn't do the processing that Google does with the Pixel phone, where they can clean all that stuff up with. So they can have not as good hardware, but their software is better for cleaning up and sharpening, and of course Samsung with the Samsung Moon. But is the because I mean, if you compare, let's say the and I don't know if anyone's had a chance to do this. Let's say you had two 15s, one max, one non-max, and you compared the 3X to the 5X. So you're talking same generation, same chipset, same everything else. Is the low light really that worse between the 3 and the 5? I mean, it's going to get worse because anytime you zoom in, you have a longer zoom. You can't get as much light in.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I haven't done the side by side on that, obviously, but I think the image quality too suffers a bit on the 5X lens from what I've seen. I rarely shoot in that, and again, I'm an external lens. I'm a proponent of the external lens, so I'll put a reflex or a moment telephoto lens on my main camera and be much happier.
Yeah, you just won't get the reach that the 5 times gives you, but
Yeah,
um, I think it's, I think in brighter light, I think it's probably a little better. Um, I was over in a town, on the Lake Huron shoreline, and there's an island off in the distance, and there was people out paddleboarding, and I took a shot with the 5 times, and I mean things were pretty darn clear. Like you could really make out, the people standing on these boards, and they're out quite a way. Um, but when you pixel peep, you can see a little bit of haloing around the people because they're
yeah,
very small, and that's that computational thing. I think I just used the Apple camera for that, and so I didn't shoot just Bay or RAW. I shot obviously Pro RAW. Um, but it's early days for both of us, and uh, I haven't had a chance to play around with everything, like like just Bayer Raw versus Pro Raw and all this stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
um, over the next few weeks or whatever, I'm definitely going to be doing that. And uh,
Well, Greg, that's something else. Is that even though developers like Howlite and had a chance to work with the beta and get their updates, it's still they're gonna. Of course, when you update to iOS 18, or if you get the new phone, make sure you do a manual forced update on all your apps to make sure everything's updated, because they do update for the new iOS and the new phone. So if you're doing a backup from iCloud and you're not doing a fresh install, you may not get the latest of the latest programs. And of course, when they come out, they're going to, and I would say the good companies will take people's feedback, see what's working, what's not working so well, and then you'll get the point one updates, the point 0.15 updates as they improve their
yeah,
software after hearing it out.
yeah. Um, Michael says, but for print, is the 5 times good? Zoom in on the image. You know what? Um, let's wait till we get to our recent photos, and then I know it's not going to show very well, but I'll tell you where you can find a better version of the image that I'm going to show, and then you be the judge. But I think you can get a very very good quality image for print out of the 5X. But I mean the conditions have to be right and all that stuff. And this is not going to be your typical 5X image. More on that later.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Well, it also depends on how big of an image we're talking about, too.
yes, absolutely. Because the 5X is only going to give you um, uh, 12 megapixel,
Right.
Right.
right? Unless you do like a multi-shot panel or whatever, right? Then you can get a bigger image. then you're getting into the um, true photographic experience then for sure. But I again, I think it all depends on the image right now, and they're going to improve it. I think over time.
Yeah.
Uh, they always
Mike's a
do. I
big
think.
pixel peeper for sure because he prints a lot of stuff professionally in essence and sells his prints. So he's probably really interested in that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that a lot of us don't do enough of is printing for sure. Uh, so anything else that you notice about it, Dwight? Just I mean, we've only had it what 3-4 days, so it's like it's early to tell too much. But
On the
anything else
phone
that
in
comes to your
general,
mind? Pardon?
on the phone in general,
Yeah, and the camera system. That yeah.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of the side camera button. I'm gonna
Oh
have
yeah,
to
camera
I'm gonna have
control.
to adjust the settings in accessibility, I think, to make it a little bit more um, sensitive because I am getting some camera shake when I push it. I mean, it's really tough to not move your phone when you push that down. And honestly, I get what I need done a lot quicker just working on the screen. I'll leave that at that. I mean, there's some other things that I could talk about, but I didn't know if you guys had any comments relative to that. Have you had any experience with using that, Greg? I do have a third party case that has a cutout. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I've actually taken the phone out of the case, and it's still a little bit wonky for me,
Yeah,
touch wise and stuff. And I'm not sure if you have to double tap it or hold it down, and then I'm taking photos. Maybe I just need to get
yeah,
used to it more, but I don't
yeah.
haven't determined the real value add yet there.
Well, I haven't uh, used it a ton, but I'm getting used to it. One thing I noticed though is that when you push it, let's see here. Okay, so there it is, and it's looking at me and looking at my ugly mug right now. Um, Once you lightly press to activate the controls, you can
Hmm.
just slide your finger on the screen to move them around. You don't
Hmm.
have to use the button to do that, although that's what they really promoted. Um, so there's that. Uh, I haven't, and I've tried using the button itself to actually trigger the shutter, but I prefer to just tap the screen. I'm holding the phone in such a way that it's such a natural position for my thumb to take the picture, um, and I probably won't change that. I looked at the settings in accessibility, but didn't change anything yet because I'm gonna see if I can see if my muscle memory and everything else can adapt to it. Um, I know a guy. I've mentioned this before. I have a guy at Apple in the camera department, and he just happened to be on the team that developed the interface for that. So I want to give it a good chance for him. And I'm sure I'm sure they'll get feedback from people about whether they like it, whether they don't like it. Who knows? Maybe they even get uh, data from iPhones on who's using it and who's not, and how many people are actually using it and whatever. I don't. I'm sure they could probably get that information, but I'm getting used to it, and I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm not gonna totally abandon it. I got the clear case right from Apple, so um, it has the button that connects to the button, through um, electronic something. I don't know how it works exactly, but it's very much just like using the actual button. And I know there are some cases made already that have copper contacts that go from the surface of the button on those cases to touch the button, and they're supposed to do the same thing. I forget who's got them. I think it might be Nomad. I'm not sure. But most third party cases will have the cutout, and I mean I don't know how that's going to work, but hopefully it'll work fine. Um, Dwight, we can't hear you.
I hold my camera a much different way
Yep.
than utilizing it that way. As I mentioned, I went through the iPhone photography school, and Emil teaches you to. Well, let me see if I can do this. You
Yeah,
hold it
that's a
like this,
real.
and then you use your thumb on the front, and that
Yeah.
is the most steady way that you can use it. So I'm gonna have a hard time because my thumb's right there on the phone trigger when I'm like this.
Yep.
I don't know if you
And I
can.
see David Addison's doing that too.
Yeah, right there. See, that's where the
Yep.
trigger is. And for
Okay.
me
Yep.
to come down here and push this, and it's awkward for me right now. But I will too give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a new thing. It's brand new. They've never had anything like this on an iPhone before. So, there's going to be 30, 40, 50, 60 million people out there with this feature that it's going to be totally new to them. And people are either going to like it or they don't, just like
Yeah.
the Photos app.
And you may want to change it to 2 times click because I think even Shane mentioned that he picks his phone up a certain way and it
Yeah.
initiates the camera. So there's settings
Yep.
there to do that.
Now, I wonder, like, okay, so in order, like, okay, are you on just 18 or are you on a beta?
I'm on 18.
Okay, I'm on the beta 1, or like 18.1. The beta 5 for that came out today. And I don't know if when the phone is sitting down, no, okay, I was gonna say I wonder if they made it so that it doesn't activate unless you're holding the phone up, but no, it just opened the camera
Yeah.
up. Because I
Yeah.
know I hit it a couple of times today and it didn't open. Now maybe I just didn't hit it far enough,
Yeah. It's going to be
but I
muscle
think I'm
memory.
probably going to change that to the double click as well.
Yeah.
Because like I said, Shane in his video he put out today, and we'll put a link to this video in the show notes. Shane Mostyn did a Astro video on the 16 Pro, so go check it out, folks. But I'm gonna change it to the double click because I pick up my phone and that's usually where my thumb ends up, and I don't want to be opening the camera all the darn time either. So
Now I
and
know,
funny
like I said,
story is that go ahead.
I was saying, sorry, Greg. I kind of wonder if this is going to turn into.
Now we
Remember
do
when
have an
they?
echo with you, Dave.
Oh, we do. Okay, is that any better?
Yeah.
A little closer is better,
Well,
or
there's
no?
still an echo.
I don't hear the echo.
I do.
Okay. Not sure because I'm using headphones, so
Well,
I'm hearing
okay,
you
that's
through the
better. Maybe they were just
headphones.
loose.
Okay. So I think the one thing, will this be the new? I forget what Apple called it, but they came out on the MacBook Pro. Instead of function keys, remember they had the OLED screen on top of the keyboard.
Capacitive touch.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if it's going to turn to that where they put it out and they just kind of forget about it, and then in a couple of years it's gone without mentioning.
Yeah, that's
Or
interesting.
or as other people have said, this is a test year because Apple does do that. They'll put out something that has limited functionality, and then the next year or two they add functionality such as, oh, this is now a thumbprint reader.
Yeah.
So you
If
have
they made that
either
if
or.
they made that button, a fingerprint reader as well as the camera button, that would be a bonus.
Because Ruth had to replace her iPad, which was 5 years old or something like that, and we got the Air instead of the Pro. So that has the fingerprint reader on the power button.
Yeah, my wife has the iPad Air 4th generation, I think, and it has that button. Yeah, it's really cool.
And it's like, well, why can't you do that with the iPhone? You
Yeah.
could do either or. I don't know if it's a logic issue or, who knows what, but you could have face or fingerprint.
Yeah. Yeah, the touch bar, that's what that was.
Touch
That
bar, yeah.
that interface for the function keys, it was the touch bar. And like Devo, I like the touch bar on the MacBook too. I had a MacBook Pro. It was I think it was the last one before they went to M1. I'm not sure, but it was a 15-inch MacBook Pro, and I love that touch bar. A lot of people hated it and really dissed it, but I liked it. I found it very useful. You could be typing along, and it's got suggested words and stuff up there, just like the iPhone keyboard does. And I don't know, I liked it. It's too bad that it went away, but who knows? Maybe this camera control thing is going to be like that. Maybe they're testing it out, and if they get enough data points where it's not uh, being used a lot by people, maybe they will drop it. I don't know, but I guess that remains to be seen. Ultra wide 48 megapixel. Dwight, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, you'll see one of those in one of my 2 pictures today, one of my photos that I'll be sharing. It wasn't bad, to be honest with you. Now, when I edited it, I did turn off the Pro RAW. I turned the slider all the way off, and then I built it up on my own. So, in fairness to a side-by-side test with Pro RAW versus that slider down, I haven't had a chance to do that. I'm really curious as to how that's going to look. If I'm going to use my phone right now, I have to shoot in Pro RAW or Hike or JPEG because Apple has not released the standard profiles yet for the Adobe linear profiles for the 16 and the 16 series phones. That's another show, but I won't start editing my raw photos until I have those profiles where I can create linear profiles as a starting point.
So you can't shoot a raw, like a Bayer raw image, like say
I can. It's
with
just
halide or reflex.
I can. It just doesn't fit my editing workflow because I like to start with a linear profile specifically for the camera lens that I took the photo with. And I'll get into that a little bit more when, one of these shows where I'm doing an edit or so.
Yeah.
But
okay.
basically what that does is if you pick like Adobe Vivid or Standard or one of the other ones, it's actually modifying a curve, right?
Right.
So it gives it a look. And the linear profile basically flattens that out. And that's how I want the photo coming over into my editing program so I can build the contrast up and as I see fit.
Okay, cool. See, folks, that's why he's here. Because we're going to learn tons of stuff. Dave, any questions about these phones that that maybe Dwight and I can answer that we haven't covered yet?
Well, I mean, honestly, the one thing is that I normally, of course, shoot in JPEG while you guys do RAW or Pro RAW. So I'm wondering, or really in height.
There's big. Hold on, Dave. There's big time echo there. Yeah, okay. I don't know why, but
well, I'm hearing some echo with you too, Greg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Well, anyway, sorry, folks. I don't know what's going on with this audio, but we're just going to carry on. It'll be what it'll be.
Okay. Well, I would say yeah.
Dwight's not hearing it. Anybody in the chat? Are you guys hearing an echo from anyone? Just let us know. So, okay, sorry, Dave. Carry on about the RAW versus JPEG.
Yeah, and I shoot in height mostly just because of size, to keep the size down, and so I can use live photos. Because I find that's the easiest way to get animal pictures, because they move around so much. So I'm wondering, and as we know, Apple tends to do the 80-80. 80-80 rule, 90-90 rule, whatever you want to say. They get, for the majority of the people, the majority of the time, this is what they want, and not really the edge cases. And a lot of times we are the edge case. Taking pictures of the galactic core is an edge case. Yeah. So I kind of wonder, and I have no idea about the echo. Sorry, Dale. Dale says,
I think it might be because it for some reason, I muted my mic and it seemed to go away, I guess, apparently. So anyway, okay, keep going. I'm going to mute my mic and we'll see what happens.
For I would say the vast majority of people, they're going to just take a picture with the built-in settings, with the built-in camera. And we know that a majority of people don't even do the basic edit. The simple, go into edit, hit the magic button, and scroll up and down, see if you like it, how it looks better. That's simple. Most people don't do that even. So I'm wondering to see if you, especially with the, the ultra wide and the macro, if you just not taking it raw or per raw, how would it do as, just kind of hold it up without any additional attachments and just try to take a photo and, it's like, okay, well, the 12, because a lot of I've been trying to check out the reviews online, different YouTube people, and the question is, they always go into the edge cases, if you will. Well, can you do this? Can you not the mainstream? Where, like I said, most people are not going to print it out. They're not going to do editing, and I think that's what Apple's shooting for too.
Yeah.
So, is it basically if you want to have a nice macro shot of something, nice up close shot of something, will you notice a difference between the 16 and the 15's lens? Because the 15 lens is the same as the 14 lens and the 13 lens, as far as I know. They're minor tweaks, but the 12 megapixel, the 12 megapixel, ultra wide.
I will tell you that in my initial try, I actually think we can get closer now with the 16 series phones. And we'll see that in one of my two photos. But I do think we can get closer with these phones. And I think Shane mentioned something about that too in one of his videos.
Yeah, I think you're right. And how's the echo now, folks? Because I made a change in my settings, and I think that might have fixed it. But anyway, yeah, I was when I was walking the dog this evening, I took a couple of macro shots, and I was pretty surprised at how close I could get. I think it might have something to do with the fact that the ultra wide now has like tap to focus, whereas before I don't think it had that. So that could have something to do with it. Michael says echo is clear. Good. Sorry about that, folks.
And that
I
makes it
don't-
nice, Greg. The tap to focus makes it nice because you get a little more bokeh now that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the ultra wide has been a steady improvement ever since it came out, and I believe it was the 11 Pro that first had it. So it's bound to get better over the years, and it has, and that's a good thing. I'm just trying to think if there's any other things that I've really noticed.
But Dave, you're right. That's why there's no off switch for that deep fusion, right? Because 98% of the people just post to social media right out of their phone. So
Yeah. Dale. Anyone miss the echo already? Hashtag bring back the echo.
Oh,
I love it.
Okay, Dale.
Oh man, no, I think it's good to be gone for good. Okay, so have you tried any video with it, Dwight?
I have not, but I can't wait to use the 4K 120 frames per second for the slow mo. And I know
Well,
that's
let me-
adjustable. I think you can adjust the speed once you take that as well, which is really cool. But I've seen some nice skateboarding half pipe shots, really slowed down, and it's really cool. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
Well, let me tell you, you're gonna be glad you bought the 1 terabyte phone. I was out at my parents' place on Saturday, and I piled a whole bunch of wood for them. So after my body said, "Okay, that's it, you're done," they put some chicken wings on an open fire in the backyard, and I was just sitting there, and talking to my dad. My mom came out, and she was huge files. Yes, very huge files. Let me tell you. So I took a video in 4K 120, and I can't show it. Yeah, Devo says, I heard chicken wings. You sure did. I'm going to look up the video because it is a 34-second video, I think is what I trimmed it down to. and it is 250 megabytes.
Wow.
Uh, so, and that's not even ProRes. That's just a HEVC, I think it is. Yeah, HEVC, which is kind of like a hike but for video, and 120 frames per second, 4K, HDR, and it's just a video of the fire pit, and then I panned up to when my mom was flipping, like turning the chicken wings on the grill. Um, it looks amazing. Like it's just a like a dumb video of chicken wings over an open flame. So it's not really something I want to post on social media, but um, the image quality is off the charts. And
Yeah, and
I
some
did another video. I did another video that day, walking from the back of the house around to the front, where I kind of just panned around my truck, and then I kind of was at the passenger side door, and then I just tilted it up towards the house, and the focus changed from the leaves were falling and into where the windshield wipers are at the bottom of the window. So there's uh, a bunch of leaves in there, and then when I just panned it up, stood there and just kind of tilted it towards the house, the focus changed from there to the house, and it was nice and gradual. It was very cinematic and totally automatic. I didn't do anything to make it happen, but the image quality, the clarity, and all it's just unreal. And mind you, that's on a screen that can play it. If you just put it on a regular TV that's not an HDR TV, you're not going to get the full effect of it. But um, man, the clarity was something else. But they're big files
yeah,
for sure.
you can record to an external drive, I think, if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
via USB-C. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, would you go ProRes?
Oh, ProRes. Yeah.
It's automatic, right?
Yeah.
It says
A log, I think you have to.
USB-C.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you're recording just like non-ProRes, can you change that to go to the external drive?
I'm not sure. I'll check that out.
Yeah, you should be able to, I would think. But that'd be good to know, yeah.
Well, when you were saying about the 5X, now just testing with Roots 15. If you do 5X in action mode, just because of how stable it makes it, and if you can get far enough away from a subject, let's say you're shooting a statue or something like that, it almost looks three-dimensional. Just because it focuses and it holds the image of of your subject so well, but the back kind of moves around it, and it looks so good. And also, Greg, you gotta remember, people pay a lot of money for product shots of basically chicken wings on a grill. If you think, oh, no,
That's true.
and I'm kind of serious. If you're a small business, and you don't have a large budget for putting stuff on the web, even putting stuff on your homepage, or putting things on social media, if you can get a nice slow motion shot, and like there's a barbecue place around a mile or so away from our house, and they're literally, it's a single place. It's one, it isn't a chain, it isn't anything else. It's just a small little neighborhood place, but on their website or on their social media, if they can get a shot like that slow motion shot of something on the barbecue, kind of slow as you're taking it off the barbecue and you're putting it, and you're getting that shot with a phone, and you're putting that out there, you're basically my one friend Michael Sorg, who I do awesome casts with, and who I do occasionally Wrestling Mayhem show. He shoots, as part of his job, both SAE International Collegiate Design Series stuff and professional wrestling. And he, of course, has, professional cameras, but he uses the iPhone for video, B-roll, whatever. And I think he's getting the 16 Pro Max. I don't think he has it yet, but I can see him using, especially for these collegiate design where it's like the Baja or Formula, basically Baja Formula cars that students build, and doing that in cinematic or slow motion as they're going around the course or going airborne. Especially the Baja cars when they're going over the hills, they're going airborne, or through the water hazards they occasionally have. Doing that on the iPhone would be great, and like I said, putting it in slow motion and 4K would be great.
Yeah.
A couple, a
Yeah,
couple of
there's a
the
lot of fun to be
YouTubers.
had.
I'm sorry, Greg. Yeah, a
No, go.
couple of
I was just gonna say
YouTubers
there's a
are.
lot of fun to be had. So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos where they think that the microphones are so good in the 16 Pro series that they almost don't need a Bluetooth microphone because you have the different uh, settings that you can also set your voice to, and it sounds pretty good.
It is pretty cool. It's very cool. I haven't tried it out other than on that video of at the fire pit, but it changes the sound. Just the sound of the fire crackling changes drastically between, say, studio and cinema. Um, and when I just started the video, my dad had said something, and he was sitting to the left of me, and I took it from standard to in frame, and although you could still hear him because he was like right beside me, you could still hear what he said, but it really toned it down like a lot. So I'm eager to try, to see what it'll do in like like a social environment or something like that, just to see how it handles it. Um, but yeah, and the wind noise reduction, that's something I haven't tried yet to see how it works. Um, but that's something that drives me nuts when you're recording video and you get that stupid wind noise. But uh, yes, you're late, Shane. But g'day, how you doing? um,
I don't see
and
his
yes,
sports
Shane,
hat
we've
on.
we've already plugged your video, so it's going to be in the show notes. Uh, and Michael says that's of no interest or need for the external mic. I shot a lot of live music, handheld videos. Um, yeah, that remains to be seen how it's gonna perform like a live music event like that. There's a lot of noise going on around you, but in frame might be the way to go. I guess we'll see. Um, And then he also says to you, Dwight, it's a lot of interest. I shoot a lot of live music video, and the microphone is better. You say, Dwight?
I have to test it, Mike. I have not tried that yet for sure, but I'll definitely let you know when we have a chat.
Yeah. And Shane, you've tried this a bit, maybe a little bit more than I have or than Dwight has. Um, just real quick in the chat, if you can, put down your experience of it, because I know you've tried it a little bit, and it's not flawless. He says that was quick. Conditions matter for sure. It's pretty bloody impressive though. Yeah, yeah, that is cool. Um, so I mean, there's some pretty good changes to these phones, um, even compared to the 15 Pro. And um, now somebody might say, well, if I have the 15 Pro Max, why the hell did I buy the 16 Pro Max? Well, it's because of this show. It's in order to talk about it, I kind of have to have it. Shane, he's in the same boat with his YouTube channel. Um, if you want to be relevant, you gotta have it. Um, Now, I also say that, be, you know, knowing full well that that wasn't in the past. In the past I didn't do that. I was on a 2-year cycle, but um, I've kind of made a deal with myself that until I retire, I'm going to do my darndest to get a new one every year. Um, hey, when I retire, I'll have a pretty good arsenal of phones, hopefully. Uh, Actually, if I do get the new one next year, I'll probably trade in the 15 Pro Max and keep the 16. Um, but it's, you know, I'm blessed to be able to do that, I guess I could say. It's not something that I was able to do in the past, and now that I'm able to do it, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. But if I wasn't doing this podcast, I'm almost certain I wouldn't have had the 15. I would have still had the 14 until this year, or if I had the 15, I wouldn't have the 16 this year. That's almost a guarantee. But because up here in Canada, these things are bloody expensive, and I think it's even worse in Australia. Um, I've
Greg, have you
got
had a chance to play with the photographic styles yet?
a little bit. Apparently they shine in when you have pictures of people. Something I don't get a lot of pictures of, and that's people. Unless my grandson's around, then I'll take all kinds of pictures of them. But I've played around with it a little bit. Uh,
So if you
just
shoot
just
in Hive, you have access to that on the desktop in the native editor. And I've gotten some, I'm a firm believer in color grading your photos, at the end, just to put an artistic feel to it if you want. Not everybody has to do it. But that square represents in the vertical is the brightness. So at the bottom it's completely dark, and at the top it's bright, and to the left is unsaturated, and to the right is fully saturated. And that dot on the standard, I think, defaults in the middle. Then you go through the styles, and then that dot moves. I've actually played around with it a little bit, and I've got some pretty nice little what do you call it? Cinematic color grades. Just playing around with it. I had a little bit of fun.
well, that's interesting. Uh, yeah, like I haven't played around with it a ton. Um, Maybe because I just haven't taken the right picture that I think might be, make it worthwhile playing around with it. y- we're into the leaves are starting to change here, and that could be a prime case for using that feature right there.
Yeah, it won't
Um,
work on ProRAW or JPEG. It has to be Hive.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, as soon as you activate the picture styles too, I mean, it automatically changes to that format,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. So, um, I used to get so mad at myself. This is kind of a bit of a tangent, but I used to get so mad at myself um, when I was out, say, whether I was doing Astro or whatever I was doing, and I would forget to put on Pro Raw. It would just be on like Heath Max or JPEG Max or whatever. And then actually it was Dale in the chat room here, Dale Lotherington, who said, "Well, create a shortcut, put a shortcut in an automation actually, where as soon as you open the camera app, you have a pop up that says turn on RAW." So I did that, and it was um, it was a blessing because, and actually, you can make it say anything you want. So I had it say, "Turn on RAW, idiot." So every time I opened the camera app, that's what popped up, and I've actually disabled it now because uh, that's the first thing I do is I look at that raw max switch or whatever, and I make sure it is where I want it to be. So, thank you, Dale, for that tip. It really, really worked because it was, I bet you, 2 months I probably had it on there, and they say it only takes what, 28 days to make a habit. So, it became a habit to look up in that corner and make sure that button was where I wanted it to be. Um, so that's cool. Shane says, I suspect the majority of people will not use the styles. How many people use the ones that started with the 14, or maybe it was a 13? Yeah, I'm not sure when the photographic styles started, um, and I'm not sure if it was a phone thing or an iOS thing when it started. But yes, I
It
I
really
was a
think
used
phone
them.
thing. It was a phone thing because I do have them on my 13 Pro Max.
Okay.
The thing is that the advantage of the new one on the 16 is that you can undo them. They're not baked in. Where if you have the 13, 14, 15, you use a style, it's baked in. So that's the other disadvantage of using the older styles. If you, let's say I have a style set up for a particular scene or a particular way I want to, make it warmer or add this or do this or this, and kind of set a tone, that would be great for that moment. But if I'm taking a picture the next day, I don't want that style. So then you have to undo everything and go back. And then a lot of times you can't go back to the exact style you had before. Plus, like you said, you can't undo it. It is a destructive edit, which to me is the worst. I rather have something where if I don't like the way the style did it, then you can undo it like you can on the ones like you can on the 16s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to Shane's point, excuse me, I think 2%, 3% might be interested in trying those out, right? I mean, it's a same with those of us that like to shoot in Bay or RAW. It will never replace a 5-point gradient or something in Photoshop, but it's a nice way to get creative and give it a try. But I think there's a very low use case.
Yeah. Yeah. Shane says, good points there, Dave. We're not ready to, if we are not already doing this just backwards with shoot and edit, or shoot then
Yeah.
edit. Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who I heard this from, and I forget who, unfortunately. But they mentioned that the styles are similar to the Fujifilm presets they have. That if you former Tiny Shutter leader Mark Sadowski on his Fujifilm podcast, he loves the JPEG presets because you can get a particular look, if you will, for the shot that can be kind of your look. It's a film emulation. So I can see this as someone said, it's kind of like Fujifilm's film emulation. You can set up a style, and you get a particular style, a particular look, a particular feel to your photos. The one advantage now is that if you're like, I don't want to have that look, I want to switch back to something else, you can do that.
Yeah.
But it definitely would be something I'm going to play with early on, and whether it's one of those things like a lot of people say with, unfortunately, a lot of Samsung stuff, you use it once and then you never use it again.
Yeah. 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 Brown Eyes Girl in the chat, she says she uses it.
Yeah.
A lot or a little bit, or how often would you use it? And Michael says why he uses Hipstamatic after using Lightroom on the raw file saved JPEG. So that's an interesting workflow. Usually when people use Hipstamatic, they put the recipe together even before the shot. So I've used Hipstamatic a little bit, not much. It's just I just can't seem to stay on it, but I certainly have tried it. Devo says Samsung equals Moonpick.
Hey, I'm seeing Devo next Friday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the band.
The band.
Oh
Yeah, the band.
Yeah,
Devo without the A.
yeah.
Okay, depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, well that makes sense. Not all the time. Yeah, it's not something that you can use all the time. And to the point of the small percentage of people that would use it. Apple shows these pictures in their presentations or keynotes or whatever you want to call it, and the pictures that they show are not pictures that people are going to take every day. But at least not many. There's going to be a very small number of people that could take pictures like that all the time. Generally, I would think, people who shoot, take pictures of models or whatever. I don't know. I maybe it's just because of where I live and the lifestyle around here. I don't know, but people just don't do that around here unless they're a portrait photographer or like a wedding photographer or whatever. But also to the point of where Mark Sadowski uses it on the Fujifilm cameras, the film sims, when you do it on the Fuji, that's it. It's baked in. It's done. So there is an advantage of it on the 16s where you can actually, if you put it on even before the shot, you can put it on. You can take it off afterwards. So, um, it's a pretty versatile thing on the new iPhones for sure. Uh, Shane says, I do the same with one of our brands, Shoot Pro Raw, then Lightroom, then RNI Film, all to get that look for that brand. Yes, and it works because what it does is it gives him some consistency with that brand, and I believe that brand is Buck and Beard. That's Buck with a B, Buck and Beard. It's products for guys with beards, um, and they look good, and the consistency of that brand, throughout that brand is great for when they go to markets and shows and stuff like that because everybody, if they're familiar with it, they know what to expect, and that's a great workflow for something like that. Michael says, yeah, Samsung is equals over processed and destructive, but looks great on screen. Zoom in and it's just pixels, no longer a photo. Um, yeah, yeah, that's the whole thing about computational photography. Even with the iPhone, there's certain things you can do, especially like digital zoom, that will just tear a photo apart. Excuse me, and make it an awful mess. But
I'm
I
interested in
think,
whether Shane uses the RNI Lightroom presets or the mobile app RNI. I have the mobile app RNI. There's some nice film looks there.
yeah, I have it too. I don't think I have access to everything in it. Like I don't think I bought into it big time when it was before it became a subscription thing. But um, yeah, he uses the mobile app, same as us. So well, okay. Well, I think we've uh, we've only had these phones for a few days, and we're going to be doing a lot more testing and whatnot, I'm sure, over the next few weeks or whatever. We'll definitely be covering this stuff in the future, and we'll probably sound like we're a little smarter as we go too, because we'll get used to it and we'll know what it does. I don't know
I
about
wouldn't
you, Dwight,
promise
but at
that
least
for
that's the
me.
case with me. So, oh, okay. So this is kind of off topic, but so Shane, Dale, and Devo in the chat here, and Scott Baker, he was around here at one time. I don't know if he's still here or not, but anyway, those four guys and myself are in. Where's the one I was looking for? There it is. We're in this iMessage chat for. We're all admins in Shane's Bloody Legends Facebook group. Link in the show notes. Uh, and we talk about just about anything and everything except the Facebook group at times. And so most of us, I think, are on the beta, if not all of us. And so we always try out these new things and whatnot. And stickers in iMessage, it's a real fun thing. And Shane says he's having a heck of a time getting them to work. So if anybody in the chat room is on the beta, have you had any issues with the stickers in iMessage? Myself, I don't think I've had too much trouble with it. I think I could still put them in. Shane, did you get the update that came out yesterday? Maybe that fixed it. I don't know. I'd be curious to know. And he says he found a Reddit thread. Seems like it's fairly widespread. Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't tried a sticker since it updated today. Maybe it broke it. I don't know. That's the wonderful thing about betas. And I strongly recommend you don't put a beta in your phone unless you can afford to play around with it or afford to miss out on some of the features. Dale says, reckon he just hates them. Just fibbing. That could be the case. But he says he creates a sticker. Sticker shows in the gallery for about 0.1 seconds and disappears. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I wasn't sure what you meant by having issues with the stickers. So, but I haven't seen that. In fact, I saved a sticker earlier today, I think it was, or yesterday, and it saved fine. So I'm not sure. I guess maybe I'm one of the lucky ones. Okay, so we will dive now into our recent photos. And so for those of you watching the YouTube video right now, you'll be able to see them. Large as life. Unfortunately, it's only 720p on YouTube, so the clarity is not the best. But these will be in the Facebook page post for this video on the iPhoneography podcast Facebook page, not the group. And let's see, Facebook will probably crunch them a bit. But anyway, I'm going to put them on the screen. But also, for those of you who are listening to the podcast in your podcast player, this does not work on Spotify, but it does work in the Apple Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, some of the big players in the podcast player game. You'll be able to see them on your screen as we talk about them. So without further ado, I've got these in order. We're going to start with you, Dwight, then we'll go Dave and me, and then we'll go through that order again. And we'll just kind of talk about them for a minute and see what we can come up with. And Dave, of course, whoever's image is up there, the other guys will give their input and 2 cents worth. Okay, so we'll start with this one, Dwight.
Okay, hoping that renders just a little bit. So this is a Mission San Juan Capistrano down here in San Juan Capistrano, and back in the 1800s, that church actually collapsed during a ceremony. It was kind of a big ordeal, but anyway, this was the 0.5 in Pro Max or Pro Raw, sorry. And the first thing I did is I do all my editing in Photoshop, but when Photoshop will bring a DNG file into Adobe Camera Raw, which is a Lightroom equivalent, inside of Photoshop, and I turn the amount slider of Pro Raw all the way to 0, which really flattened it out. I don't know what it did to the curve, but that's how I kind of used it, and then brought it into Photoshop and built up the tonal values from that point. So I brought up the midtones and in the sky in the foreground. So this is really kind of my first shot with the ultra wide in Pro Max, and I think I did autocorrect for vertical, and then a couple things I think on the outside were a little bit fringe, so I brought back some of that detail in post. But I think it looks okay.
Yeah, the colors are vibrant. So obviously, if you dialed back the tone map, then you've obviously did some color correction, or with saturation and vibrance, and I think the iPhone does the best job of rendering the sky, the color of the sky. Maybe I'm a little biased because that's what I use, but I just find when I see comparison photos of other, Samsung, Huawei, whatever, I just find the sky in those cameras just doesn't render in a really realistic way.
Yeah, I didn't touch the any hue saturation in this at all. I just brought up the midtones contrast, wow. and it built the colors up. So, yeah, I mean it doesn't look too bad.
What do you think, Dave?
No, it's. I just love the flowers in the foreground too. Just adding that little pop of color, like you said, it just balanced so nicely, and it honestly, it's one of those shots where it's a tourist shot, and I mean that in the best way. It's one of those shots where you could see this on a cover saying, "Come visit us," type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So
it definitely isn't a unique perspective of this. This is a highly photograph perspective.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Brown Eyes Girl in the chat says she would have brought up the green a little more. Is it fairly realistic to what you remember now, or would that have been maybe something to consider?
I think that's fair. I wouldn't want to bring the green up in the background on that bush in the background with the lighter tones. I think maybe she wants to maybe bring up the darker green values, maybe lighten them a bit, and yeah, that makes sense. And I do have a vignette over this thing, and I tried to protect some of the darkest darks with a feature in Photoshop that I won't go through now. I might have taken some of that out. So yeah, no, I'm always open to suggestions.
And we'll also say that I'm comparing the image that I'm seeing on my screen in YouTube versus the image I have on my phone. And the image on the phone is brighter than what I see on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, this does not look like what I sent you guys.
No. But
Right,
that's
yeah.
YouTube, that's compression, that's,
Yeah.
going through. And that's something to remember is the StreamYard. That's why going to the page for the podcast or looking at it on your device when you're actually listening to it, as long as you're not like driving and looking at your device, don't do that, please. But
Well, it does show in CarPlay.
yeah,
Then
it
people would
does,
stop
but
running into each other around here.
Yeah.
those images
no,
are
that's
CarPlay
cool.
are small, so
Yeah. No, it's a good image. And
Oh, yeah.
So how old was this building again? This church?
Oh gosh.
Ooh, hold on, let me look it up. Actually,
Yeah.
this is something that's really nice, is that I looked at the image, I hard pressed on it, I hit look up, and it gave me it actually found what it is and gave me the Wikipedia page about it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
So it was founded in 1776.
Yeah.
So just shy of 250 years.
Yeah, it's quite a history, Greg. You'd probably get a kick out of that, and really what happened during the earthquake when the service was actually in session.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Brown Eyes Girl. It does look dull here, and I think if I sent you the regular photo, it would look different.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. That's a good start for sure. Dave,
Yep.
on to your first one here.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so this was taken not too far away from my house, and I just noticed I was just coming home, driving home, and just the way the sunset was with the sky. Now, I did boost the colors. It wasn't per se this vibrant, but there was a good amount of color in the sky, and I just like the way the red brick building on the left and the railroad stop right there, along with the color in the sky, just kind of framed it and gave a little bit of foreground to the sunset right there. So it was just one of those things. I'm driving. I'm like, wow, that looks good. Pull over real quick, pull out the camera, and just take a picture, and then do editing. I want to say in Lightroom Mobile on this one, and maybe the base camera app. Let me just double check here, refresh myself. Okay, it just says included in Instagram. So I still want to say I did do work in Lightroom Mobile on that one to kind of bring out the punch up the purples and the reds in the sky.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Brown Eyes Girl says lovely hues in the
Thank you.
in that image, and that's something that what was it when I think it was when the pandemic hit. I did a lot of sunsets that first spring, and I don't know why, but there just seemed to be so many nice sunsets during that time, more so than any other year that I can remember. Maybe it's just because I haven't gone down to the waterfront. That's where the best view of them is, to see them. But you know, I just couldn't get enough of shooting sunsets that year, and this reminds me of that. You know, the nice pink and purple and orange hues that you have in the sky there. You know, how long were you there, Dave? Did you kind of wait it out for a bit to see if it got any better, or
I
were you just
nope. I was actually on my way home from a grocery store.
oh yeah,
So, and this was taken at 7:50 p.m. So basically, if it would have waited an extra 5 or 10 minutes, it would have been dark.
Oh, yeah.
Because right now, sunset here is just around 7:30, 7:40 at night now. And
Yeah.
this was just taken on Wednesday. So we're losing sunset. We're losing daylight quickly.
yeah,
Unlike Shane and everyone who lives in the future down under, who are gaining sunlight
Yeah.
now a lot more.
yeah. The
So
days are starting to get longer.
yeah, it's literally one of those things that it's like, okay, if I stop and wait, or if I waited to get home, because this is 3 minutes away from my house, but if I would have waited to get home, I probably would have missed it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just
That-
that timing.
Shane says you guys are so yesterday. Yes, we are. Yeah,
I love seeing
sometimes
these
I look
old
at-
brick buildings because we can't have them out here with our earthquakes and stuff.
With the earthquake issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. Sometimes I look out my front window and I can see the sunset starting to take shape, and I'm thinking, okay, do I run down there and try to get this or not? And there's times when I've done it, and I've left like literally a minute or two too late, and I've missed the best of the light, just because I didn't get there in time. So chasing sunsets is fun, but can be pretty stressful and disappointing too at the same time. But no, another good shot. Oops, there we go. So here's my first one. So this was from the first time I got out shooting with the 16 Pro Max, and this is a shot with reheld, 10 seconds, and basically I've just bumped the saturation, contrast, things like that. In I want to say darkroom, I think, and but I was really impressed with the stability of the phone, with the 5X, and I didn't have to. I think the effort I had to put into holding the camera still with the 16 Pro was less than I had to do with the 15 even. Like the stabilization is just that much better. And so to Michael's point from earlier in the show, talking about could we do a 5X and get a decent enlargement out of it? I think I could. I bet you I could take this up to 20 by 30 easily. The image quality is, in my opinion, that good that it could print like that. That remains to be seen, because I've yet to print something that big from, even from a reflex shot, let alone a 5X from either one of these phones. But maybe it's something I should try.
And Greg, that was handheld, correct?
Handheld.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised. Like, I had my phone on a tripod, and I used Reflex Pro camera, the long exposure feature, to do a couple of shots before I took it off the tripod and did this. And I was really, really pleasantly surprised at how good the stabilization was in it. So I will be doing that more for sure. And thank you to the folks in the chat giving me compliments on it. I appreciate it. But yeah, I think it's print worthy. The quality, not just because it's my image or what it is, but I think if you get a decent picture with the 5X in the 16 Pro, I think you're able to get a print no problem at all.
Yeah, especially with the I love the flow from upper right coming down, but it's not just in one direction. It's coming down and making that hard bend at the very bottom, going straight down.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the flow is a lot less than it has been. Like in the spring, it's obviously a lot more. Generally, there's water going covering all the rocks on the way down, but uh, in this
Dave,
particular, like at this time of year, it's somewhat slower.
yeah, Dave, that's a good point because there's a flow from the upper right all the way down in a V shape front to the bottom right. So
Hmm.
compositionally, you can be drawn in from either direction. So that works nice.
Yeah, thank you. Um, just looking at some of the questions in the chat here. Brown Eyes Girl, am I going to put this out here for you guys? Is it possible to ever use a gimbal to shoot photos? Sure, I've done it before. Um, do you need one? If your hands are somewhat shaky, yeah, you might want to. You could use one for sure. And a lot of gimbals nowadays have a button on it that'll actually trigger the shutter via Bluetooth. Um, but if you got a steady if you got a steady hand with the stabilization that these things have, I don't I don't think unless it's dark and low light, maybe you might need one, or you might want one. In general, though, I don't think it's really necessary. Uh, let's see here. They're all coming in pretty quick. um, Shane says you'll still get a much smaller tripod than a gimbal. Um, I think that was. I wonder if that was an answer to this one. Oh yeah. Well, for stabilization, if you shake and you don't want to be carrying around a tripod, yeah, yeah. There's a good case right there. If you do have, shaky hands, and some people do. I know a few people that have that. You might want to uh, get a gimbal and, by all means, get that stabilization back. Um, I get things popping up on my screen here that don't belong. Anyway, so that's my first one, and we'll move on to Dwight's second one.
Okay, so this one I took in macro mode, and I had a couple other ones that I took that I got really close. This one isn't as close as the other ones that I took, but again, this came over in Pro Raw at 12 megapixel into Adobe Camera Raw. Again, I turned the amount slider all the way to 0, built up the kind of the balance and contrast in Photoshop. And what I noticed on most of my macro photos with the new 16 Pro Max is that they're actually softer. The photos are actually softer. I did not do any texture, or I did a little bit around the center of where the yellow is and just kind of the whatever you call those things around it. The Pro Raw did make the image a little bit dull. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, the whole image kind of looked like that around the perimeter. So what I did was I went back into Adobe Camera Raw and created a light source with a radial gradient, just up the exposure a little bit, added some warmth just to bring the sun back into the scene and give it just a little bit of reality. But yeah, this is kind of my first day trying out the new macro, and Greg, it did have the touch to focus, and you can see I got some decent bokeh in the background there, some blur.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you notice that the background, like when you put that tone map down, did it change much? Like,
Oh yeah,
it kind of,
it got really dull, and yeah,
but
I
as
think that
far as
most people
like,
wouldn't want to work with it. I didn't hit. Did I hit auto after I did that? No, I didn't. You can't do auto after you turn it all the way down. It gets real wonky. So no, I turned it down. Then I had to completely develop it in Photoshop. But yeah, it looked horrible.
oh yeah, okay, yeah, because I just wondered if it took away a lot of the like over processed look
That's one
of
thing
the
I don't
Pro
know.
Raw.
If I take that slider off, if I take the amount all the way down, does that take all of the deep fusion out of it? See, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I don't know if it takes it 100%.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure.
So what I'm noticing with the Pro Raw, and Brown Eyes Girl also mentioned, we're seeing stuff that's a little bit more dull here, and that's why I prefer to shoot in Bayer Raw myself, and then start with that linear profile. Pictures come out a lot better.
Did you have to do any sharpening at all, or did you?
I didn't want to
Did
because
you have to?
I didn't want to because it made the leaves look too veiny, if you will, and
Okay.
it looked unnatural. But what I did was I added a little bit of texture, and then I black masked it and kind of brushed it in with a white brush in the middle, just to bring just a little bit of texture there in the middle at a very low opacity. But I kind of like the softness of what I've got here compared to other macro photos with my 15 Pro Max.
Cool.
Quite happy
How
with
close were you?
how these were turning out. I was probably four inches maybe. This wasn't the closest one that I got, but I just kind of like how this kind of worked. I think it's probably between 3 and 4 inches maybe.
And how big is the flower across?
That's about 7 inches. It's a big one.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's the one thing about macro shots like this. It's really hard to tell how big the subject is
Right.
unless you have something very noticeable. Even then, if you have something noticeable in the background, it's sometimes easier, but not always, depending on perspective. But with what you have in the background, it's hard to give it a size here. But
Right.
that's a really large flower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Mike, on the moment lens, I believe you have the 75 millimeter long distance. No, that does not replace it. I don't think anything replaces that beautiful lens, and I think Reflex has one as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You will not get as good a macro out of a phone as you will with a lens. The lens will always beat the built-in macro functionality of the phone,
Yep.
no matter how good the phone gets. Believe me, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and this
wrote a
was just
book
to kind of showcase what I was able to get out of the new macro 16 Pro Max. Normally I would probably use a long range macro for this and not worry about capturing too much more of that the pond lily or whatever it is. I would want to get more into the details, into the center.
Well, the biggest difference is the bokeh, like the depth, like the depth of field.
Mm-hmm.
So the phone, the built-in macro of a phone will try to give you a lot more depth of field. It's just what the processing does, and it's it's physics. Dave's mentioned that many a time about the physics of these lenses and stuff. And with the lenses, they give you such a shallow depth of field that in a shot like this, you're going to want to probably focus on, I'm just going to put the actual photo in front of me here. You're probably going to want to focus on these yellow little petals in here, or on these pink ones right in front of that yellow,
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
that's where the center of attention is, and then that plane of focus will highlight some of these other ones that are kind of in line with that, and then anything before it and beyond it is going to be get blurrier and blurrier the further away from that plane of focus that it gets. And that, to me, makes a much more pleasing macro shot than what the iPhone will give you natively.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I could show you pictures that I've taken, the same thing, same subject, one without the lens, one with the lens, and the one with the lens will always be better. And it doesn't matter what lens it is, whether it's Moment, Reflex, Sandmark,
Mm-hmm.
Struman Optics, it doesn't matter. That they all produce very, very good macro shots. So, but yeah, this is a very, very lovely image, and um, I think it's good that you try to leave it as soft as you could, because you know, generally, like I said, an iPhone macro will look over processed, and you know, uh, again, having you on this show now is it's teaching us a lot of new things, and I'm gonna take some macro shots where I can take that tone map off as much as I can, and then start my edit from there and see how it works out. But I think it's definitely a good way to go for sure.
I'm going to have to show you a workflow to help you with that, Greg, because it may get a little wonky if you're just doing it in Lightroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I Pro Raw for me has really turned me off to the sharpness.
Yeah.
So I like the softness and then build up the sharpness to the point that I like it. So
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do a show sometime in the near future where we will cover all that stuff. So, folks, little inside baseball. I was gonna have Dwight on as a guest to talk about his workflow, but now that he's a co-host, we're gonna touch on it probably here and there and everywhere. But we are gonna have a show dedicated to that for sure. We're still gonna do that. Probably not the next episode, but maybe the one after. I got a guest trying to line up a guest for the next one, but more on that at a later date. So that's cool. Dave, this is your second one, and this is cool.
Yeah, this is actually this is me borrowing Ruth's phone. This is at the baseball game that I was at last 2 Mondays ago when we were recording, and the reason why we were late. And I was because it was just starting to get dark. I know that's the best time to get moonshots with the iPhone, so you don't have that, the contrast isn't so bad. And it just so happened, when I set up the shot, it was right when the pitch was about to get thrown, and it was a hit right coming towards us. So I just like the way that, it actually gets pretty good detail there for stopping the action of the player down front. And the fact that if you not overly zoom into the moon, but the moon is not a blur blob there. You can actually see the half moon there. And this is taken, I think this was a Hive Max. Just trying to up the megapixel, especially since I was zooming in a good amount. But, I did do a little adjusting on it to kind of boost the color a little bit and everything else. But I just kind of like the framing of the shot where, you have the field, you have the light tower to the right, downtown Pittsburgh, right over the river, kind of center and to the left. And just the fans kind of in the background. And I love how, now, originally in the ballpark, when it was built 20-some years ago, the out-of-town scoreboard was manual. So it was actually, someone actually updated it manually. Now that's just a big LCD screen, but it kind of replicates the look of an old-fashioned out-of-town scoreboard, like they used to have in the olden days, if you will. But I just kind of like the way it's set up there in terms of the framing of the shot, and it was a beautiful night out for a baseball game.
Yeah. And okay, so did the Pirates win?
Yes, that night they did win.
Oh.
They almost lost it. They almost lost it in the top of the ninth inning, but they barely held on.
And who were they playing?
The Miami Marlins.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which was one of the few teams worse than them in the National League.
was this a base hit, or did he throw him out at second?
It was a base hit. But I want to. I'm trying to think if it turned into I think it was a double. But like I said, they were able to hold on, which is unusual. And they actually won that night. So,
Sounds like my Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, the nice thing, and this has been true all but maybe 3 years or so since PNC Park was built in 2001. The team has not been good, but it's still a fun night out. The seats are reasonably priced for baseball. You can still get the food isn't ridiculous. It's not that bad to get around, and it's just a nice night out. So it's just something fun to do. At this
Yeah.
point, I hate to say it, most of Pittsburgh's kind of given up on the baseball team, and it's
Well,
turned into
if they
you
were
go
having a
out for a
banner
nice night
year,
out, and if you enjoy baseball, not to see a winning team per se.
yeah, if they were having a banner year, there'd be a lot more people there for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean the stadium only holds 38,000, so it's a small stadium for Major League Baseball, and yeah, the cup what, almost 10 years now, when they made the playoffs and looked to be a serious team, and they easily over 30,000 people a night, easily, and the good nights were sellouts, no problem at all. The night I went, which was a Monday night, they had paid attendance of around 10,000.
It could
But
have
there
been
was
because of the other team too, Dave. Right?
not
Because I
really.
know, like, when with the Toronto Blue Jays, if the Boston Red Sox are in town,
Well,
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
place
I mean,
sells a
if
lot more.
yeah, if Philadelphia, if we had Philadelphia and Cleveland in a New York team, somewhere it's easy to travel, but Miami to Pittsburgh is not an easy travel. Cincinnati, St. Louis fans travel great, so they all go great also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the camera captured it nicely.
Oh yeah.
Like just plenty of detail everywhere. Like you can make out the people in the stands across the field. You could see on the scoreboard that Toronto was tied 0-0 in the second, and they probably went on to lose because they suck this year. But no, I mean, it did a good job of freezing the action for sure,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, a great shot for sure.
Yeah, I like it, and I like the use of negative space too. I think that's often overlooked. I think a lot of times people try to crowd too much into a photo, and I do like this. I like this action coming towards you. I like the negative space.
Well, to get the moon in there too, like I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just another added little bonus.
Yeah, that's something I was when I noticed from our seats that we actually saw the moon and it wasn't dark. That's something I was really trying to focus on getting a good shot of the moon right there. Just
Yeah.
trying to keep an eye out for the location and make sure it was still light enough we wouldn't have that contrast issue, which kind of kills a lot of moon shots.
Oh, cool. Okay, so my last one, um, it's fall as of yesterday. It's autumn here in Canada, and the leaves they be changing, and it's my absolute favorite time of year to shoot. Um, I just love shooting these, the different colored leaves and stuff. And this was on my way out of that waterfall that was in the first one there. Um, yeah, so these pictures were taken. I was in a hurry because I got the phone at about, I want to say, 2:45 or so, and I had to get everything transferred over to it, get it set up and going, and then I had an hour to kill before I went on with Shane on his channel to do a live stream about having these new phones, and I was like maybe a minute late getting online with Shane when after he started, but I still made it in good time. So this one, I just pulling out of the driveway at the waterfall. Um, I just put my window down in the truck. Was waiting for cars to go by, and I thought click, with the 5X, and that was it. Um, I believe this might have been. I can't remember if it was reflex or the camera app. Probably the camera app because I was just trying it out with the camera control and everything. Um, as for the color, yes, I did saturate the colors a little bit, but not much. They didn't really need too much. It's nice and brilliant, that tree. Um,
Yeah, I like the balance between the leaves that have turned and the ones that have yet to turn. I think there's a neat balance between the two.
yeah, every fall I seem to get that, with a maple tree, and um, I really like that balance. I like it's a kind of a way of showing that it's early fall. It's just starting. Um, it just I just can't get enough of this season, and I hope it lasts for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I know it's not going to. So getting out and shooting every day is my goal. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Hope we don't see snow for you too soon, Greg.
Well, last year we got some snow on Halloween,
Mm.
but it was gone the next day, and it was like a big wet snow. Like it was just really thick on the trees. I got some beautiful shots, but it was really wet and heavy. I got drenched because every time I got out of the truck to take pictures of something, it was coming down. It was coming down pretty good. Although a lot of the pictures don't show it, some of them do. Some of the ones later on in the night, you can actually see the snow coming down. But it was just like big flakes of really heavy wet snow, and they were sticking to the trees, and it made for some great shots. Some of the probably one of the best pictures I've ever taken was taken that night, and it was while it was still daylight. It wasn't quite dark yet, and I was really happy with how it turned out. But I do love fall. I love the fall season. Um,
Hey, Greg, one thing we didn't mention tonight, I don't think, is the new sensor on the main camera lens. I believe the processor brings the information in a lot quicker. And I guess I don't know how, and this is the deep fusion. I don't know how that changes the quality of the photo, but something maybe you can test between the 15 Pro Max and the 16 Pro Max. Maybe it's catching more detail, maybe it's catching more color. I don't know, but I hear that could have some type of an effect on the photo.
yeah, they're calling it. They don't even call it the main camera in this one now. They call it the fusion camera.
Fusion camera, yeah.
So what it's doing is it's taken the 48 megapixels to capture detail, and then it's taking the bin, and it's amazing to me how it does this. But it's taking the binned 12 megapixel image that captures it for the light, and it's fusing them together to come up with it. And this is a typical like a hike image. It's fusing them together to make a 24 megapixel image that is supposed to be nice and bright and with a lot of detail. That's the best I can recall it from the keynote. To see how that compares to the 15 Pro Max, I'm really eager to find out. And one of these days, like I've got a little notepad that I bought just to do these kind of things. And one of these days, I'm going to take that stupid thing with me so that I can write down the situation and the settings and all this stuff. I mean, yeah, I got the metadata, but it's going to force me to slow down and really think about what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to that kind of testing.
Yeah, I think Shane did something with his Astro between the two different cameras. The ISO changed, and I don't know if it had something to do with that. But yeah, that's something to look at.
Yeah, the 16 Pro had a lower ISO than the 15 did. So I'm sure there's, like the image signal processor is bound to be better, just as it does every year, or they wouldn't say this is the best iPhone we've ever made,
Yeah.
And there's the guys in the Bloody Legend admin group chat that we have. A lot of them will probably say incredible and incredible times too, harking back to last year's announcement for the iPhone 15. They used the word incredible. I don't know how many times, like 30 some odd times probably in that whole keynote thing. And we were looking for the catchphrases for this year. Nobody could really pin down one thing because they kind of changed it up. So, but yeah, I mean, it the the difference between the two, I don't know how noticeable it's going to be, but also to get back to the point about the 15 or the 5X, sorry, and the quality. I tend to think that this particular shot, because it was an overcast day, it wasn't exactly bright. I tend to think that maybe it was of lesser quality than I would have got with the 15 Pro Max.
Yeah, it'd be good to check
5X.
that out for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be using the tripod, like I say, to help slow me down and get some of these shots, and hopefully without moving it, I can get shot for shot exactly the same composition and everything else for a really really good comparison. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Uh, anyway, well, I guess that's our photos. Let me get this. Stop sharing. There we go. We're back to normal. Everybody wake up. So that I, I, that was a really good batch of pictures from all of us. You know, everything was well shot, well composed. No complaints about anything. Dave, I kind of missed your wild and crazy edits, but maybe we'll see some more of them some other time. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
I figured that this weekend I do have an event that will be downtown Pittsburgh and various places around Pittsburgh. So I'm going to get lots of photos and see how things turn out that way.
cool. Um, Dwight, you got any plans for what you're shooting?
Yeah, I'm still trying to think about that. It's been a really busy work week. I might do some photo manipulation as well, as you know that I like doing that, Greg and
Yeah.
Dave. I see you like using Picasso and a few things like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I might do a little bit of that. But yeah, I still have my 15. I haven't traded it in yet. I may try to do a side by side somewhere. I'm going to try well, it's tough to try the lenses without a case. I'm still TBD, but very interested in continuing down the path, and I appreciate you guys having me on this show. This is going to be a fun journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely going to be fun for sure. I have a few days off yet before I have to go back to work, so hopefully I'll be able to get out and try some of these comparisons. It's going to be probably overcast and somewhat rainy, but that's okay. Rain really brings out the saturation in the colors, and I mean, we don't have a lot of color here yet, like as far as the leaves go. Like I think this is a sugar maple in the image that we just looked at, and they tend to get nice and bright. um, but I'm sure in the coming weeks, and when I say coming weeks, I mean like next week, the week after, maybe that's when the colors are really going to start to come around. um, I'll definitely be getting some more, but uh, I'm keeping this 15 Pro Max, and I'm gonna be able to use it as a backup or a companion to the 16 or whatever to m- do video, whatever. I don't know, but I'll be using them both and doing what I can. Okay, so I got a reflex case on this, so I can use my reflex lenses on this, but I don't have anything for the 16 Pro yet. Um, Hopefully that'll change soon. We'll see.
Yeah.
But uh, well, I guess on that note, we got a show. Everybody, thanks for listening in the chat room and on YouTube here. You can see all of our online places in the show notes. I got Dwight's added into the show notes now, and uh, okay. Before I forget, so on the next show, I'm hoping to have Christian Sheehan on, all the way from Tokyo, Japan. And he is the developer of a camera app called Fig, Fig, Fig. And it is, it was only available in test flight to try out the beta, and it only worked on the iOS 18 beta. So now it should be available to. I don't know if you can get in on the beta anymore or what. I don't know. Maybe it's in the App Store now. Can you give it a quick check, Dave, and see if he's released it yet?
Sure.
It's called Fig Camera.
Yeah. And this app is pretty cool in that you can shoot ProRAW. You can shoot. Basically, you can shoot in process 0, like you get with Halide from running it through the
look like
image lab.
yet.
With
It
the
doesn't
I don't
look
see
like
it.
yet.
I don't see it yet either, Greg.
Okay, he's probably not released it yet then. And I don't know what his timeline is for it. I'm hoping to find that out. But you can also customize your shooting settings. Kind of like I don't want to say like hipstamatic or something, but let's see here. Where is it?
Now, can you shoot in 48 megapixel, maintain that without processing?
Like as if you were doing the process 0 thing.
On the Fig app, the new one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? I don't have it on the 16 yet, but it is on the 15. So, if I was to go, there it is. Yeah, it's still in beta. Okay, so you got RAW, you got Beta RAW, you got Pro RAW. You've got natural, which is a gentle highlight roll off when overexposing, a single capture. This is the one that's kind of like process 0. Narrow dynamic range and some noise. So I found these shots to be very much like a process 0 shot. And then you've got standard pro, which is gentle highlight roll off when overexposing, wide dynamic range, reduced sharpening. And then you've got standard, which is a familiar iPhone look, which is basically like an iPhone JPEG or hike.
Oh, I'd love to check that
Then
out.
you can go into customizing. So you can make, or you can set the capture format, the save format. You can toggle on or off gentle overexposure. The raw conversion, you can have it set to standard, linear, or custom. And I can't wait to have him on so he can explain what all these do and what they mean. Noise
Oh, he's
reduction,
talking
you
about
can have-
profiles there.
Pardon?
He's talking about profiles there. That's
I
going to be
guess,
really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can adjust the luminance noise reduction, the color noise reduction, contrast, saturation, and vibrance. All these things you can set and make a preset for shooting. And man, I think that the guy's really onto something here for sure. So I can't wait to have him on. So it's called Fig Camera. He's on Threads. What is his username on Threads? Because this is how I found him. Let's see here. If I can find him. Because on Threads, that's where I think that's where he steered me or directed me to the link for the beta. I just can't remember what his username is.
Yeah, just shoot it over when you get it. I'd love to check it out,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
I'm gonna edit out this silent stuff later. I was gonna see if I can get it for the listeners, but yeah. Anyway, once I find it, I'll put it in the show notes, and it'll be interesting to see when that comes out of beta and becomes available in the App Store for sure.
Cool.
But yeah, it only works on iOS 18, so and iOS 18 works on everything as far back as the 10s Max. So And it's not an Apple Intelligence thing. It's just I guess he developed it for 18 and onward because he didn't want to have to worry about working on it now and then changing it as soon as it comes out type of thing. So, but anyway, okay. Well, thanks guys. It's been a good show and can't wait for the next one. So
Oh yeah.
I guess we'll see everybody next time.
Sounds good. Be safe, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone.
Take care.